Here we go. Okay, we're recording. Um. All right. So we can actually click on the chat box on the side, on the left side of the screen. If you click on the workshop QA, then we can talk, and you can type in chat questions if you want to type them, or if you want to just talk and interrupt me, that's fine. So the point of this workshop is to try to help you go from complete beginners that most of you don't know anything about programming or game development, and help you build a couple simple games by the end. And we're not going to be able to do that all tonight in 1 hour, so it's going to take a few weeks to get there. I'm not sure how many weeks right now, because we don't know how fast we're going to be able to get through this material. This is a first time thing, and you guys are my guinea pigs. So, just to start off, how many of you did not make it through the video that I sent out on how to get Unity set up? Nobody? It's all of you.
I have it installed. Is installed and set up the same thing? Or?
No. So you have Visual Studio Code installed now?
Yep.
Okay, then I'll just show you really fast how to set that as your default code editor. So okay. If I share my screen. Alright, do you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, at the top, go to edit.
I don't.
You don't see it?
Okay, edit, yeah.
Edit, preferences,
Okay.
and then external tools. Right here where it says visuals, on mine it says external script editor. Click on that and go to Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
And then that's it. And you can close this menu. And now if you go to your assets folder down here on the bottom left of your screen,
Okay.
you can right click to create a C# script. And if you double click on that script now, then it should open up in Visual Studio Code.
Let's see if that worked. Yep. Okay. Yeah, it worked.
Okay, then while you're in here, real quick, click on this extensions button on the left side of Visual Studio Code and search for this C# extension if it doesn't show up. C#.
C# extensions. Is that what it's called?
It's just called
There's
C# for Visual Studio Code, and it's green.
green. Mine are all gray.
Do you see my screen still?
Yeah.
This one at the top.
Oh, I don't have icons. Let me.
Oh, then.
I didn't have icons either, but it was just the top one, and then when you clicked on it, it showed the green.
If you
okay.
Yeah, if you drag this edge out, then the icons will show up.
Okay, and then I download it. Yeah.
Yeah, hit download or install, and then there's going to be a little pop-up at the bottom that says you need a NetCore SDK, and then you click get that, and you need to download that too, and then that's it.
Okay.
And that'll just help. Let's see, Sarah says she doesn't see anything. Do you still not see my screen at all, Sarah?
Yeah, I don't, but I did the beginning part, but if I'll need to see your screen later, I don't know.
Did you click on his screen?
No.
So yeah, if you're in the
Well,
video,
do that. Click on where it shows like his stream, or it says watch stream.
Oh. I see it now. Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. I use Discord all day.
Yeah. All right. So this, welcome to Unity. This is Unity.
Oh shoot, I got a mini project. Let me open up a normal one. Whoops.
All right. Does everybody now see my screen?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't heard Sam this whole time.
I know, me either.
Sam, you're muted, by the way.
And so is Dallin, if you know that.
Yeah, I'm just helping out my sister.
Okay. Is she getting close?
I think so. Yeah. She's having problems because her password or something is too easy.
Oh.
Spencer, which template are we doing?
Okay, here I'll start over so we can do it together, but just a 3D one. So if you're in Unity Hub,
Okay.
yeah, then you're just gonna do the default 3D one for now. So if everybody wants to just make sure that you have a project open, so just in Unity Hub, then you hit this new button in the projects tab. So it's projects, learn, community, and installs. So I'll go to projects, new, set a name for your project. I'll just call this game design workshop. You can call it whatever you want. And then pick the place where you're going to put it. I just have a Unity projects folder where I've been keeping my Unity projects in my documents folder on my computer. So then you can select that folder and create, and it's going to create a new project. Oh, there she is. She made it. All right. Michaela, can you hear me? And you are muted, just so you know.
So it's hard to hear because there's this echo with everyone's mic on, so she can't really hear you.
Okay, if one of you wants to turn off your mic, then you guys could sit next to each other and just listen to it on one. That might help. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is look at a little bit of C#. So, and then we'll get into more of what all this is in Unity. So this down here, you have a project tab and a console tab. Okay, the console tab shows you it's like a running dialogue of what's happening with your code. So if there's ever any errors in your code, they'll pop up here. And if you ever tell your code to print something, like to print a word, it'll print it here. So the first thing we're going to do is print something just so you can see how this works. So if everyone can go to your projects folder. Well, I think the best way to do this is I'm going to explain what to do and show you how to do it, and then I'll give you like a minute to do it on your own. And then if you guys have any questions during that time, you can ask questions, and then we'll move on to the next part. Does that work? So in your assets folder, you right click, and I'm just going to create a new folder and call it scripts. Okay. So now in my assets folder I have a scenes and a scripts. So in my scripts folder, I'm going to right click, create a C# script, and I'm just going to call this testing code. I don't know. You can name it whatever you want, just make sure you name it something. And then hit enter. Now I can double click on that. And it'll open. Okay, here it is. So it opened it up in Visual Studio Code. And the first thing that I want to show you is just how to make messages appear on that console. So if you look at this code, it comes with a bunch of stuff already made. So we don't usually need to touch this stuff at the top. Sometimes these are just libraries of code that have to do with Unity and C#. So sometimes we're going to have to add more libraries if there's code that isn't available in these libraries, but we'll get to that later. This other stuff is just saying that this code, like this script that I made, is by default a type called mono behavior. And mono behavior is just a type of code that goes along with Unity. Okay? So we don't really need to worry about that either. Down here, these two things, void start and void update, are two functions in Unity. So void start is like whatever's between these curly brackets is going to happen as soon as you start the game in Unity. And void update, whatever you put between these curly brackets, is going to happen on every single frame. So if you're on a really fast computer, that could mean it happens like 200 times a second. And if you're on a slow computer, it might be 20 times a second. So it's kind of, it depends on how fast your computer is. There's another one that you can do, which is called void fixed update, which looks like this. And this just means it's the same as update, except it happens the same on every computer. And I think it's like 50 times a second. Okay? So for now, in the start function, these are functions. And a function means basically a machine that's going to do something. It wants to do something. But we have to tell it what to do. Okay, so inside these curly brackets, this is where we tell it what we want it to do. So this is saying when the game starts, I'm going to Debug.Log. This is how we print something. So Debug.Log, we add parentheses here because we want it to do something. So parentheses at the end of something make you know that it's a function and that you're calling a function. So calling it just means that we're going to like hit go and we want it to do something. So inside these inside this parentheses, now we can tell the log function, because this is a function that exists in Unity already, so we have to type it exactly like this, debug.log. Then we have parentheses. I'm going to type in just some words in quotes. That's important. So quotes make something a string that Unity is, or Visual Studio Code is going to ignore everything about it. It's just going to say this is a word that they want to type. So I'm just going to say hello world because that's what everybody types in their first programming class. And make sure you end your work, end your sentence with a semicolon. Semicolon is how you end a line of code. So, oops. So now I have that. So in my start function, it says Debug.Log, and I have parentheses, quotes, hello world, and ending with a semicolon. So I'm going to save this, and then go back to Unity. And in order for, if I hit play right now, nothing is going to happen because this code isn't on anything in my game. It's just in my project folder. So I have to actually make an object to put that code on. So I'm going to go to game object and just create like a 3D cube. Just for no reason, just so it's something we can see. And I'm going to click on the cube. It opens up this inspector over here on the right side, which is all the different components, like everything that this cube, all the information you'd want to know about this cube is over here. And so we're going to now drag the script over there. So now the cube contains this script, my testing code script. And since the cube is in my scene, I'm going to open up the console so you can see. I'm going to hit play. And there it is right there. It printed it out. Hello world. And then it just tells us what kind of an object did that. Okay, so if everybody could now create a Debug.Log call in your start function, try that out on your own, and I'll give you like 2 minutes to figure that out, and then I'll answer any questions if you're having any trouble. So ready, set, go.
You still have yours there, Spencer, so I can see it?
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to read on the screen.
Okay, so you hit save, and then what happened from there? You had the script, and then you dragged it and dropped it. But where did you put it?
I put it in the inspector when I had the cube selected. So I made a cube. So I have a cube. Like if I click on the cube, it opens up. See up here at the top it says cube. So that's my object, and it's saying all this stuff about the cube. So I just have to drag the script from the project folder over here, and it'll just add it to the bottom of that menu.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could even drag it onto the camera if you wanted to, because the camera is in that scene. So if I wanted to, I could say, this is my camera, and I'm going to put the script on that, right? So now the same script is on my camera and my cube.
Shoot, I lost my script.
So if
How do we... Oh, sorry.
So go ahead.
How do we build the cube?
Just go to game object at the top, and then I just did a 3D object cube, but you could make whatever you want for this part, because the cube is was just something that you could see, right? So you could do an empty. An empty is something that you can't see. It's just an empty object, an invisible object with just a location. Basically, it only has a location in space. So if I do create an empty, I'll show you. See, it's just this point in space is what the empty consists of. But it is a game object, so I could add the script to that, and I could rename that thing something else. This is my, I'll just call this my player. And then I can.
And with creating the debug.log, does it matter if there's spaces in between the G and the parenthesis, or
no, it actually shouldn't matter, because it's going to just read starting from the beginning of the line through to the end of the line, and it is going to just look for the next symbol. So like the word itself, you need to spell that correctly, but like you could even you could have this like clear over there and it would still work. So
So what was the line? Debug.log, parentheses, open and then close parentheses. Was there anything else on that line?
You write a
so
phrase.
you have to have
in it.
quotes around the words that you're gonna write in it.
Does that go inside the parentheses then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So it's like an order of operations, right? And we're gonna do
Yeah.
a little bit of math today, just so you can understand how that works. So as soon as you have completed it, then in the workshop Q&A, just say "got it" or something. Like type in "got it" once you successfully print something in your console.
So I'm completely lost.
Yeah, you're moving a little fast for the old lady. So, okay, I think I got that line done. So then what's next?
So now you have to drag that script onto something in your scene. So over here, do you see this on my screen?
Uh-huh.
Top left. These are the different objects that are in my scene. So I created the cube by going to Game Object, 3D Object, Cube. I just made another one. And it just added another cube to my scene. So anything up here is a valid place to put your script, and then it will work. So right now I have the script on this cube and on my camera. So if I hit play, it's actually going to run twice, like on both of those objects. See, it happened twice because I have the same script telling it to say "Hello World" on two different objects.
I can't press play. I get a error.
Oh, good. So what does it say? What the error is? I'm guessing it.
Error CS 1002 : expected. What it says.
So did you put a semicolon at the end of your sentence?
I guess I must have not. Let me. Do I put that after
the parentheses?
Oh, okay. There we go.
On your Debug.Log.
So, Spencer, I'm not confused. Did you take script from the cube and put it somewhere and then
All
put
right, and then
script in it?
all I'm supposed to get is that it says testing code at the bottom of my screen, right?
Is that what you wrote in your thing?
Yeah.
Then yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Sam, to
Cool.
drag it onto that, you just have to select the object in your scene so that it opens up your inspector, and then open your project folder, and then drag it from the project folder onto the inspector.
So
Or
you
just
need to
onto
have
the cube
script
even.
thing open separately already somewhere.
That's what I did. Like onto the cube in the engine.
You guys are talking at the same time. I'm having a hard time understanding what you're wanting. Sam, go ahead.
Need a raise hand thing or something. I want to see you do the thing where I typed the script "Hello World." It's in that folder, and then show me how did you then get it. Did you dragged it? Show me how you do that.
Okay, so I have my. Do you see my screen still?
Yeah.
Okay, so the script is right here.
Yeah.
And I want it to be on this cube, so I select the cube, and so it opens it up so I can see the cube information on the right side of the screen. and I'm going to just drag the script to the bottom of that list. And then it shows up
Oh,
here.
the whole, oh, that's inside your folder, right?
This is inside my cube. So this,
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
when
So
you
do
select
that.
something, it opens it up. Like this is the inspector, meaning that it's inspecting the object that you have selected. So if I click on this light, then now if I do anything over here, it's going to affect the light.
So I click add component before I slide that over there?
No, you don't have to. You can just drag it on. You could do add component and type in the name of your script and choose it there. That works too. That is doing the same thing as dragging it over.
Okay, and I think I've done that. I think it's dragged over. So then what do I do?
Now go to the console tab here and then hit play at the top of your screen.
Okay.
And then see if it says your message.
No, it's clicking back and forth between the box with the arrows coming out of it, and then when I hit play, it clicks it into that other one with the top of the screen blue and the bottom gray and a little tiny box right into the gray part.
But in your console down here on the bottom, do you see this console tab? You have a project tab.
Let me get back over to your thing. Point to it again.
So there's a project tab, and right next to it is a console tab.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're looking at. We don't care what's up here.
Yeah.
So if your message shows up in the console, then you know you did it right.
It did not.
It did not. Did you get an error?
Well, it says clear, collapse, clear on play, clear on build, and then it says error pause, but that's not highlighted. And
So
then
did you hit play?
Huh? When I hit play, it toggles back and forth between two screens up there. Okay, hang on. Let me make sure.
Well, yeah, when you hit play, it's going to go to your game. So the scene is the 3D editor where we're building it. The game screen is what it's actually going to look like in the game. So if you hit play, then it switches to the game tab, because that's what the play button does. But it also, if you...
Oh, hang on just a minute. Hang on. Fred's helping me, and I think I didn't put a semicolon. Maybe that stopped that. So is it going to translate over to here since I changed it?
You can try press console, press play.
Oh, okay, got it.
Got it?
All right, thank you. Yeah, we're there. Sorry.
Okay. Dallin and Michaela, were you able to get one to work?
I was.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's try one that's a little bit more complicated, but it's the same. It's going to be the same thing, so we can use the same script. So I'm going to open up this. So what we just did was we printed a string. Okay, there's different types. Actually, I should just explain to you what a variable is. So we can declare variables which are different types of information. So we can have numbers, we can have words, we could even declare a game object as a variable. The ones that don't need any outside input, like if it's a game object, we have to grab a game object from our game scene, and that's what we're using. But inside the code, we can just create numbers and words by doing, like, an int is an integer, so a whole number, and then and a float would be a number that is has a decimal point. A string is a word or a sentence. And then a bool is it's short for Boolean, which is something that only has two options. So it could be true or false, or on or off, like a light switch. And these are the main types of variables that we can create just out of thin air in our code. So to make a new variable, you decide whether it's going to be public or private, and then you say the type. So this is the type: int, float, string, or bool. Then you give it a name, and the name can be whatever you want, and then you give it a value. So if I wanted to create a string, so say I want to create a string called character name, and I want the character's name to be Spencer. So I would go public string, and it's going to be called player name. And I mean, we could call this whatever we want. We could say this is char name, character name. Like, we could call this whatever we want. And then we do equals. And since strings need quotes, then I would create quotes and do Spencer and end with a semicolon. So that's how you would create a new word in C# that we can now use anywhere we want. So if I wanted to create a new number, I could do public float and say, I'm just going to call this one like run speed or something. And then I can give it a value. And you don't even actually have to put a value here. We could add the value later, right? But so we could end that with a semicolon. And then later somewhere else we could say run speed equals 12 or whatever. And so we could declare the variable up here, and then give it a value down here if we want to. But I'm just going to do it up here, so I'll say run speed is 12.75. And in a float, so a string you have to put quotes around it. A float, you end with an F. An integer, you just have a number, and a bool, you just say true or false. So I'll just show you that. So public int age, I'm going to say it's my character's age or something. So character age, and it's 30. So that's an int. And then a bool. And public, so the difference between public or private. So if I did private bool is alive, and say true, because I'm alive. Okay, so that would be a bool. So a private or public, what public means is that we'll be able to access this information outside of this code. So if I just saved this right now, and I go to Unity, then over here on the right side in my inspector, see it says character name, run speed, and character age, but it doesn't show the is alive thing that I made because I made that private. So I can't access that from outside of the script. If I want to access it from outside of the script, I have to make it public. And right now this error is just saying that I have variables that I declared variables, but I'm not using them anywhere. I'm not doing anything with it, so it's just a waste of space. So the same way that we debugged something down here, like we printed it, we can also just put in the name of a variable and it will print that value. So if I say char name, then what do you guys think it's going to print if I save this?
Spencer.
Yeah, so watch. Hit play, and all these different ones, they all printed my name. So I'm going to delete some of these objects because it's redundant. Get rid of... because I've made a whole bunch of these while I was showing you guys. So on this cube, there. Okay. So you can just type in the name. Where'd it go?
I gotta go for now, but I'll be. I gotta go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll just be.
But I do want to learn this stuff.
Well,
So
I'll put the recording on YouTube, and you can just watch the last 10 or 15 minutes when you have time.
okay. All right. Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, so we could put any of these names of these, but you put the name of the variable, right? What we called the variable. So if I wanted to know, like, is the character alive, I could just type in is alive, and if I printed that, it would say true. That's what it would print out. We can also just do math here, so we could do like 3 plus 5. You can just type in math and it will do the math. So if we print this, where did it go? Okay. I'm going to clear my console. That's all this does. If we do clear, then it just wipes that clean, and if there's any errors left, it will keep the error so you can see the errors. But I'm going to hit play, and 3 plus 5 is 8, so it printed 8. And if you edit your scene when you're in the play mode and then you get out of play mode, it goes back to the way that it was before you edited it. So that's why I did this so many times again, because I deleted those objects when I had the play mode going. So I gotta just clean this up again. Okay, so as a practice real quick, create a variable. I don't care what kind of variable, just one of those things. So either a string, a bool, or an int, or a float. And then print the value of that variable. And we'll just see if you guys are able to create a variable now. That's the next assignment.
Say value, you just mean what that variable is doing, like the run speed or the name.
So
and
think of a variable like a container. So like this is a variable of type water bottle, right? And what it has in it is water. So I would say this is a public water bottle called Contigo, and it equals water. So then when I print it out, it's just going to say water. So this bottle only contains water, and it can it could contain juice, right? But it has to contain a liquid. So this would be a container of liquid, and like a float or a string is a container of words. So it has to be a word that you put after that. Like you can't do something you cannot do. Why is it doing this? Okay. You cannot do like int and then put a string here. Like we couldn't do this. Because an int is looking for a number. A string is looking for the quotes. So each of these has a specific thing that it's looking for. The only thing that we're going to change that we get to choose is the name. And this name is important. Like you don't want to just say apple, you know, and then later on you have a number that is apple if there's not an apple in your game, because then you're going to be looking around trying to figure out what you named stuff. So you want to name things that are kind of descriptive so that you can just look at your code and remember what it is, because this is going to get a little more complicated eventually, and there's just going to be all these words all over the place, so you want to remember what those words are, right?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So
are you putting one space in between each thing, like public space, string space? Then that's a hyphen, right? Between, that's very tiny for me.
that's an equals sign.
Up there.
It's an equals
That's an
sign.
equal?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I can't see that all. Okay.
So you're saying this is the type of, it's a string. The name of the string is character name, and the character name equals Spencer. That's what I did. So the equals sign in C# and probably most programming languages means a sign. So if you're trying to do math and you do a math problem with an equals sign in it, you need to have two equals signs, and I'll explain that more when we get into those. But for now, the equal sign by itself, just one equal sign, just means assigning a value. So it says this variable is assigned the value of 30. And then later on, even if I declare it here, later on in my code, I could say, now, since this is a code, Unity is going to read this code from top to bottom, left to right. So if later on I said, I actually want my character's age to equal 17, and then underneath that I print my character's age. So I declared the variable up here as 30, and then before I print it, I say 17. I say it equals 17, and then if I print it down here, now it's going to print the 17, because that's what it is at the time that the that it printed. So if I do this, hit play, it says 17. So it doesn't even remember anymore that I ever said it was 30. And so that's actually a very good use for these Debug.Log lines. Like that's why we want to learn this, because in your code, anywhere in your code, you could put a Debug.Log and type something in and then see what it says, or if it even prints, because if it doesn't print, then you know there's an error before it got to that line. So if this didn't have a semicolon, for example, and I save it, so I took the semicolon off of the character age equals 17. I'm going to clear this. Now I can't even hit play because it had that error, but so it's not going to print it. And sometimes you'll have an error that lets you get through part of a script, but not the rest of the script. And that's when you can decide, like, start putting Debug.Log lines around in the script so you can figure out where that line is. But usually these errors will explain where the error is. So here it's saying, if you can read this line, it says 2020 in the code, like in parentheses right here. So testing code is the name of my script. And then this means line 20 and then character 20 on that line. So if I go to my script here, you can see the line number here. So go down to line 20. And then if I count 5 for every tab, so 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that's only 2. That's 5. So now it should be 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So it's going to be like 22 or 23 if I save this now. Oh, 21. Okay. But we know that it's line 20, and then we know where to look on that line for the error.
What's counting the spaces when it's telling you the error number of crossed?
Oh, maybe it's not counting the spaces. That's probably why my count is off. But it does count the spaces up to the first thing that you type, at least, because it knows that this is 5. It knows that there's 10 spaces up until here. So maybe that's what it is.
Okay.
So has everybody been able to? Oh.
Mine is saying error, but I'm not sure what to change.
So what does it say your error number is? Does it have this line with the red exclamation point?
Yes.
So then look, and it'll say the name of your script .cs, and then it'll tell you what line that the issue's on. So what does your line say?
Let's see that. It says asset scripts test.cs 15,6 error cs 1513, and then there's a second one.
So it doesn't say
Which
anything after
numbers?
the number?
Expected? Oh,
So,
the squiggly thing is expected.
so
Is it not there already?
Go back to you.
maybe you accidentally deleted the curly bracket or something.
Does it go right before each one?
So your code, every sentence that you make, like up here in your variables, you have to end that with a semicolon. And whenever you do anything inside of a function, you have to end that line in a semicolon as well.
They all have semicolons.
So does your function have an open and a closed curly bracket on the beginning and the end of your, like mine says void start and then open and close parentheses, and then I have an open curly bracket, and then I have the code that I wrote in it, and then after all that stuff it has a closed curly bracket. So maybe you could share your screen, and then I can just look at it.
Is this above all the other stuff that we typed earlier?
This is below.
So let me stop
Okay.
streaming.
How do I share my screen? Screen. Share your screen. Do I have to go live? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Can you see the code page or just the Unity page?
It's loading. Still loading. Or you could take a screenshot and put it in the chat. Try this again. Looks like it's showing Unity, but I see. Okay, yeah. So it wants a curly bracket. So go to your code.
So I'm on my code right now.
Oh, then you share.
Do you see it now?
Just a second.
Okay,
No.
let's try this again. Change windows. Now can you see it?
I see Discord.
Discord.
Like,
Do you have more than one screen?
this is only showing. Okay, let's try it again.
Maybe it's because it's a pop-out.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay, this should work. Can you see it now?
It's loading. Got a lot of things open on my computer, so probably slow.
So it goes under void update, is that?
I thought that's where you were putting it, but I could be
I
wrong.
thought it was up above it.
I've been doing everything in void start right now, but okay. So
Oh, and this new stuff, so it can go right underneath the last stuff we did?
Should I move it to there?
Okay, so your public update thing right now is missing a open curly bracket. And these lines, so it says public string char name Flopsy, that does not need curly brackets around it.
Isn't that what the exclamation point was saying?
It's saying that it wants you to, it was expecting a curly bracket, but it's because your update right now is missing one. So underneath your void update, just type in an open curly bracket. No, the other one, the open. And then delete the second one that it made, the closing one. Okay.
Okay.
So if you scroll down a little bit, there should be a closed one. Yeah.
There are two closed ones.
So the one at the very bottom should be going to your, like, your script itself, the mono behavior should have open and closed brackets, and then each function needs to have open and closed brackets. So, can you scroll up to the top? Okay, so you have see the mono behavior thing at the top? And underneath that it has an open bracket. So if you click on that open bracket, then it just click on the actual thing. Okay, if you scroll down, it should highlight the closed one of, like, whichever one is closing that. And
Oh, it's at the very bottom.
Yeah. So that's what you want.
Oh, so the other ones can be deleted?
No, the other ones belong to that update function. So inside, you have functions inside of functions. So every time you have a function, it needs open and closed curly brackets. And
So then wouldn't the character name need them too?
No, because that's not a function. That's a variable, which is just a container of information. So at the very top of your script is where you put these variables. So after the curly bracket in your mono behavior, above your start function, that's where you would usually declare variables. So your public string char name Flopsy, I would put that line up above the start thing. But you can put these anywhere. You can even put them inside of a function, but to be more organized, then you usually declare them at the beginning. Because you just have to make sure that you declare them before you use them. So if your Debug.Log says print Flopsy or print your character name, and then you don't declare the character name until after that, you're going to get an error that says I can't find anything called character name, you know?
So we need to put debug.log print?
No, Debug.Log is print. I was just saying, like,
and we'd want that on the update under here?
No, on your start, you have it right. So on your Debug.Log there, delete the word well, hello, beautiful, and get rid of the quotes too. And now just type in char name.
Whoa.
Yeah, and now if you save this, then now it should print.
Whoa. What happened?
You click the X next to that assembly C# thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So now go to Unity. Oh, and it's not going to let us watch that. But now if you hit play, then it should print Flopsy, because Flopsy is the value of char name. Does that make sense?
That there are still errors that's not letting it play.
Did you save
There's
it?
another one. Yeah, I did.
Well, now it's stuck on your...
This says type or namespace definition or end of file expected.
That means that it says a type or namespace definition, or it's expecting the end of your file.
Yeah.
Okay, so go back to your code. Did it say what line number it was? Did you see?
(25,1). Is that saying the line?
Yeah. So go to your code now. Namespace. So namespace libraries are those things at the top that I was talking about, which we know that's not the problem because everything we're doing is it belongs to mono behavior, which you don't know what that means yet, but that just means that like all these things like string, float, int, bool, these are things that C# can do without adding anything extra up here. So that's not the issue. So it's probably looking for the end of the file, meaning you might have too many curly brackets in there, but like you might have a closed curly bracket somewhere and it thinks that you closed your script, like closed the mono behavior, but then you have more code after it. That's what I'm guessing is the problem. So if you go to
should I move this one to being right underneath the character name?
I would, but that's not the issue. The issue is this. Do you see on line 16 that curly bracket has a red squiggly under it? That, at least I think it does.
Yeah, it does.
It thinks that that should be the end of your code. So here, let me share my screen and show you how to keep this organized, and then we can see if you're still having the issue after you try to clean this up. So this is for everybody. Let's see, share your screen. All right, do you see my screen? Okay, so normally every time you have a new level of stuff, like we start out with our mono behavior, which is this is our script. This is our whole script, and it's going to be in between these two curly brackets, okay?
I'm not seeing your screen, Spencer.
You're not?
I still see Princess Sarah's screen at the top of my screen.
Then Sarah, can you end your stream?
Yeah, I stopped sharing my screen, so
Maybe I'm supposed, okay, wait, sorry, it says close stream. I probably was supposed to click on that, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Do you see mine now?
I got you now. Yep.
Okay, so every time we go in, like, down another level, like Inception, we have code within a code within a code within a code, right? And the way that we know what level we're on is these curly brackets. So mono behavior has these curly brackets. So then we go down a level and we hit tab to just move everything over to the right a space. And this stuff is what we're saying is down this next level. So then I have a function called start, and then everything inside that function I tab again, so that I know that, just like glancing at it, that I know that stuff is inside my start function. So that's like common practice just to keep yourself organized, is just to say every time you go inside of another object, you're going to just tab again. So if you say we had a function inside update called do work or something. See, now if I hit enter, it tabs it over automatically. So now I have a function inside a function, and everything's tabbed over again. And that way you can easily see where the curly brackets are too. So if I hit enter here, then now anything inside these curly brackets I want to do out here. So I do Debug.Log, and then inside here I'm going to say is alive. Okay, so our variables that we declared, like our public variables, just do them all at the top so that you know where they are. And then we have this void start, void update. But I don't want to do this in update, because if I do this, if I play this right now, well, first it won't work because I don't have an actual function. In order for this function to work, I would have to make the function outside of update. So, like, create a void do work, like that. So this is how you'd create your own function. When you if you want to call the function, then you do this. So you'd say, this is the name of my function. I'm calling it by adding these parentheses and putting a semicolon. So when this happens, it's going to call this function called do work. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing, but I don't want to do this on every single frame, whatever this is. So I would probably move this to my start function for now, because I don't have anything else. I don't have any buttons or anything that are telling Unity when to do stuff. So the only thing I have right now to work with is these like start and update and fixed update. So here I created a new function called, down here I did void do work, and I can make that a public one too. That way I could get to this function outside of my script, and then I'll delete this. I'm gonna put this Debug.Log thing in my do work function. But this was just to show you how to like stack functions, right? So if I have my start function, then inside of it, everything in here, make sure it's not on the same line as your curly brackets, and that you tab it in once, and then you'll be able to see more clearly, like, okay, this void start has an open and a closed curly bracket, and every line inside of there ends with a semicolon, you know? Public void do work right now has a, here I could put this on the other line. So it has an open and a closed curly bracket, and all of these ones, so everything that's in one space has an open and a closed curly bracket, open, closed, open, closed. This one has an open and a closed, and then you can just keep track of it and know like exactly how many curly brackets exist. Because every single time you make a function, it needs to have an open and a closed curly bracket. Okay, so we've been going for like an hour now. I'm gonna try not to teach anything new. So if you're still having trouble with this, this stuff is super important, and it's basically the baseline of what we're going to be working off of, just to understand how to make a variable, and how to print it. Those are the two ideas that I want people to just come away with today. So if you are having trouble with that still, and Sarah, if you're not able to get it to work, if you're still getting errors, then I could stay on for like 10 minutes after everyone's gone and help you figure that out. But I'm guessing if you did this and you just organized it so they're all on lines that make sense, then you'll be able to find where the problem is. All right. So does anybody have? Let's see. Let's go through. Dallin, were you able to get to print a one of your variables? Or Michaela, were you able to?
So I was not. I'm having just this problem with Unity. I just got to figure out. I have 2 different Unities, and I got to figure out which one I need to delete. And so, did you say this was going to be on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm gonna post this video on YouTube that you guys can then go and look at if you want to.
I'll probably really need that.
Okay.
I got a little bit of it, but then you cut out like halfway through and I couldn't get the rest. And so I think I'll just look at the video on YouTube and let you know where I get through.
Okay. Yeah, I might make a really quick. I'll post this, and then I think I'll do a video just showing the instruction part that I did, so then people could maybe try to just watch that too. And if you're getting errors and stuff, then you might have to still look at the long video, but this way maybe people will be able to get most of it in like a 5 or 10 minute thing. But if you're running into errors right now, then we could stay on, and I could stay on and help you figure it out. So, Sam, have you been able to follow this at all? Are you even still here? I guess not.
I'm here.
Okay. Well, then since you have a question, Sarah, I guess we could keep going on that. But I would need to see your script. And if you absolutely can't figure it out, it's possible that you just deleted like a parentheses or a curly bracket, and you could just delete that script and start over, right?
Because I've been trying to organize it, and now there's a lot of red squiggly lines everywhere.
So maybe try just deleting it and starting over. That might be easier, because then you're not dealing with whatever these other errors are that you're getting. You know that you're just doing it right the first time. And since we haven't really done anything, like we haven't done any important stuff in this code yet, it's not like it's gonna matter if you delete it, right?
Yeah.
So
So I press assets, scripts, and then create folder, right? C# script, or
just in the
what are
scripts
these called?
in the scripts folder, you can just right click in there and do create a C# script. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey Spencer, me and Michaela gotta go. Our mom's wanting us to go get ready for bed.
Okay. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
This says that the NetCore SDK thing, the little thing that pops up in the corner,
Yeah.
hasn't been enabled, but I did that earlier. So I don't know why.
At the top, if you go to that C# script and go to the top, the C# extension in Visual Studio Code. If you click on that, does it say enabled at the top? Like, does it say? Do you see mine? It says right here. It says I can disable it if I want to. I clicked on it. Now I can hit enable. Make sure it's enabled. That might be the issue.
How did you get there again?
From this extensions button.
Oh yeah.
And then click on the
Let's see.
extension, and it tells you if it's installed.
Disable is an option.
Okay, that means it is enabled right now. So
Okay.
it should be working, but you might need to either close it and open it back up, or maybe you didn't. Did you install the NetCore SDK thing after it downloaded it?
Yeah, I did earlier, but it's acting like it hasn't been installed, so maybe I just need to do it again. Okay. We're gonna do it again. Ground up.
So all that is doing, that NetCore thing, what that's doing is it's just helping Visual Studio Code know how to autocomplete stuff. So if you started typing in debug, then it just helps it know that this is valid C# language, right?
Okay.
So then it gives you like this
That makes
autocorrect list, which it already will have an autocorrect list. It just makes it more accurate for Unity and stuff. So
Okay. It's almost done loading.
So if I was gonna, maybe I'll walk through this one more time, just really briefly, and then I'll just cut that part of the video off and use that as the standalone video. That
Okay.
that way you can see this. So I'm going to delete both of my scripts here.
So, Spencer, what's the relationship between those lines of script showing up at the bottom when you hit play and that box at the top? I don't understand actually even what's happening here.
The box, like this cube?
Yeah.
In order for a script to work, in order for it to run, so a script is code in your game that is doing something, right? But in order for it to even turn on, like in order for Unity to read it, it has to be on an object in your game. So if it's just in this project folder, then the script isn't attached to anything in the game, and so when you hit play, it's not going to read that code. So this cube, I just made this cube as a visual. It's something in my scene that I can put the script on in my game, so that when I hit play, then it's going to read the code.
Okay, do you know what would help me? And I'm probably too old for this kind of thing. I'll just tell you that. So this might not work. Trying to teach me this, but if you could actually create a really basic something to show us where it is we're going, like do something, hit run, have it do something so that you can say, okay, what we're doing is now we're doing the steps to build us up to do that. It's like I have no context for what's happening here. And it's probably because I don't play video games. But
so I'll show you one that I started working on today that I was thinking we could work on this type of thing. It's opening up. So, do you see it?
Yep.
So just a little spaceship thing that's flying around, and we can shoot. And then I'm gonna put like asteroids in here that you shoot, and just like something like that. So we're just trying to be able to program like objects, move them around, and be able to accomplish something in a game. So the game could be like we could have a timer that counts down 5 minutes or something, so you have 5 minutes to see how many asteroids you shoot. Or we could have like 5 asteroids and you keep playing until the 5 asteroids are dead, you know?
And each of those things that you're having it do, then that's a group of lines, like those commands like we were kind of doing, right? That might be embedded within one another.
Right, so look, if I'm gonna click on my spaceship. There's my spaceship. On my spaceship I have a player move script. So then this is my player move script. So these are all my variables. I have a float that's saying the thrust, which is how much power I'm going to give. It's just a number that I haven't given a value yet. So all these are different floats, like for how fast I want it to turn, or these ones are floats for how far, like how high or low or left or right on the screen I want it to be able to go before it teleports back to the other side of the screen. I have a bullet force float, so this is still just a number, but it's a number I can say how fast I want the bullet to move. So these are all things that we did today.
You said float is decimal number?
Yeah, so any number that needs to be not a whole number at some point needs to be a float.
Okay.
And then here, this is all the code that it took to move the ship around and shoot. So it just has, we have an input, which is the keyboard buttons. We have the input, that's the shoot button. We create a bullet object every time we hit the shoot button. And then, yeah, so it's like, these are things that once we get past the, just like the basic, this is how to type in some code and get through that, which is, I mean, it's kind of a pain at first to wrap your head around it, but if we can just get through like these first couple times together and just get the very basics of like, this is how you even write code, and these are the possibilities of things that you could type, then we can start adding this in. So like, for example, this is something we use all the time, and it's an if statement. So we type in if, and then if whatever is inside this parentheses is true, then do the stuff in the curly brackets. So that's something I was hoping we'd get to today, but we didn't, because we had too many errors on just debugging, like printing words. So
are all of the things on here in the different colors, are those standard operation things? Like, you didn't make up any of those out of your head, right? Those are all things that you would know, learn to use for different functions that you want to do. Does that make sense?
So, the green things are like, these green ones are game components. It's like, those are the things that were on the side in Unity, over here. So the game itself is a game object. I mean, the cube itself is a game object, but then it also has a, well, we can add a rigid body, which is a thing in Unity. So yeah, so here I've got a rigid body and I've got a game object. So the game object is the object itself, like the cube, and the rigid body is the component on the cube. This other stuff, like these yellow words, are things that you have to learn. The blue words, most of the blue words are things that I made up here. So like thrust, turn input, screen top, these are all just floats. These are all just numbers, but I'm using a word instead of a number, so that when I'm in my game, see, then I can just type the numbers in here and it does the math and everything for me. So
Okay.
what, Sarah?
I got rid of the exclamation points, but now it just, like on the Unity page, has a yellow triangle with an exclamation point inside, and it just says, the associated script cannot be loaded. Please fix any compile errors and assign a valid script. But then in the script, it says that there aren't any problems being detected. And it's showing the character name now in Unity.
Are you able to print it? Like if you hit play, can you hit play? Does it let you?
Earlier. Let's see if we go this time. It is pressing play, but now it says a white speech bubble exclamation point, Unity engine .Debug.Log object.
And then does it say the word that, like, what does it say after Debug.Log?
Flopsy.
Or above that? What's it say on the line above that?
It says a number and then Flopsy.
Good. That's what we wanted this whole time. We wanted it to say Flopsy. And then underneath that it says Debug.Log.
Oh, that's a good thing?
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to do. That's what I was trying to get everybody's computer to do.
Okay, but then above that it still shows yellow triangles? Wait, if I press play again, maybe it won't anymore because I just cleared it. Is it fixed?
Well, the yellow
Oh,
triangles
no.
aren't errors. The yellow triangle is like this is something that might be wrong, but it's not bad enough to stop it from running. So
It says the reference script on this behavior is missing.
the reference script.
Yeah. Well, there's two. So two pop up each time I press play. One says the reference script and then in parentheses unknown on this behavior is missing. And the second one says the reference script on this behavior and then in parentheses game object sphere is missing.
So what script does it say? Like, does it still say your testing code or whatever?
It says testing and then it's checked, but then there's a second.
Here, can you share your
There's
screen again?
nothing. Yeah. Your screen. Can you see this?
I see Unity.
So then this triangle down here.
I don't see the bottom. It's really stretched out. I only see your game window.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
It's like
Discord.
I'm not seeing your whole screen, just part of your Unity window. Like the 3D view with the 3 tabs at the top of it. That's it.
Did that change anything?
Nope. Oh, there it was.
See it?
Now it's gone.
Oh.
There, I see it. He says the reference. Okay. Now it's gone. I can't even. It's not even.
What? This doesn't make any sense.
It only stays for like a second, and I don't have time to read it.
Maybe I just have to keep moving it around.
It doesn't help.
It has 2 places for a script. Maybe I should just remove the component.
Game object sphere is missing.
Try playing it again.
Oh, you deleted a script, right?
Oh, it's back. Yeah.
Then remove.
And now it's back.
Remove that component, the old component, off of your sphere object. So click on your sphere.
I did, and then it came back when I pressed play.
Well, you have to hit play to make sure you're not playing. So hit play.
Oh.
And then do that.
And then remove.
Yeah.
Aha.
That's what I did earlier. Was I removed stuff, but it was in play mode.
It's fixed.
So the yellow
and
errors
it shows the name. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Sweet. Okay, I think the main thing I'm just confused about is making sure that I have the order right of where you put the curly brackets
So
and when you don't use curly
So far,
brackets.
we haven't made any curly brackets. So you shouldn't have made any curly brackets today. You should have only
Okay.
made a couple of lines that ended with a semicolon. So if you create a function, which is
The Debug.Log.
no, Debug.Log is calling a function. So if you create your own function and call it Sarah's function, then you need. So let me try to explain this this. I'm going to have to explain this to everybody, but this will help you right now. So if I... Alright, I'm going to... Do you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to this guy, create a new script. I'll call it Sarah. Alright, so in this script, I'm going to delete these things. So now I just have my... This is my script. My script is called Sarah, and it is a mono behavior, and it has these curly brackets. So we don't ever touch those two curly brackets. Those have to be there. So if I created my own function in here called, so I'm going to say public void Sarah's function. When I create a function, I have to have parentheses and curly brackets. So now this is my own function. The only difference between this and like the start or the update one is that this isn't being called anywhere. Start is automatically being called at the beginning of the game, and update is automatically being called on every single frame of the game. As if, think of it like a movie. So like if a movie is 24 frames a second, a game works the same way. So on every single frame, so 24 or 100 times a second, whatever the number is, it's going to call that function. So right now I just created a function called Sarah's function, but it's not being called anywhere. So in order to call the function, I have to, somewhere I have to type in Sarah's function, put parentheses and a semicolon. And did I type it differently? Copy.
Okay.
So,
and then you said the parentheses mean calling an action. Does that just mean you're calling Sarah's function an action?
So this is how you call, like, this is how I would say I want this function to run. Like, so the Debug.Log is a function that already exists. And so when we type in Debug.Log and have that, this function already exists somewhere in one of these libraries. So it already exists, and this is just telling it that we want it to do it. And what Debug.Log is it just takes whatever's inside these parentheses and it prints it to the console.
Okay.
So that's what that function does. But in order to, like, if you make your own function, this is where we say what we want this function to actually do. So when we call Sarah's function, what do we want that function to do? Well, we could say every time we call Sarah's function, we want it to print, and you can do this too, you can say print Sarah. So print and Debug.Log do kind of the same thing, but Debug.Log is a better practice because it logs it to the actual like code log of what happened in your game, so then you can helps you find errors and stuff. But so now I have your function that prints your name. Every time we call this function, it's going to print your name. Okay?
On the console?
On the console, yeah.
Okay.
So right now, though, in order to call this, I have to have some way to call it. But this is how I would call it. So for now, I'm just going to say, let's get our void update back.
What's void mean on the...
Void is the type of function. So like what it is going to be returning. If we wanted this function to return like a number, then this could be an int. We could do that. But then in order to finish this, we have to return 12.
Returning it to where?
So that just means that it's that this, every time we call update, except for this would be better to show not with update, but show you with yours. So instead of saying void, this word right here, void, just means nothing. So we don't want it to like return a value. So we could have,
Okay.
but you could say, I want this function, every time we call this function, I want it to end up with a number that I use somewhere else, right? So I could say I want it to return an int, an integer, but in order for it to now work, I have to have a line in that says return and then have a number. So we're not going to use this hardly ever. I'm just explaining what void means, right? So
Okay.
so usually you just say void because we don't need this. We don't need to return something. And
Okay.
returning is like if we call the number, if we call Sarah's function, we say, I'm doing this function, and whatever this other function is that's calling your function needs a number in order to finish, then we could do this so that it sends a number back to us that we can use. But
Okay.
for now, we're just going to say void. Void just means nothing. Null also means nothing. So we could even return null. So if this was a int, I guess we can't do that on this. But null, like if we say create an object, we say a public int called Sarah's int and equals null, which is not letting us do that right now because null isn't a valid, nothing isn't a valid integer.
It's okay.
But yeah, so I would create that. In order to call your function now, we have to have we have to have a way to call it. So either the start function, the update function, or have a button in our game, or have an object like a collision. So if one object hits another object, that's a collision. And when the collision happens, we can have it call a function. So we just have to have something,
like end the game.
Some event happen. Something has to happen in order to like call this function in the first place. So
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So we have your function, and we're not doing anything with it. But I could say, but now that it's public, I'll show you this really fast. This would be a good visual. I'm just going to save this. All it has is your function in it. And I'm going to change it back to a void. Okay. File, save this. So then my game, I'll just create a button. And this, I don't know why it does this, but it shows the camera screen like huge. But so on this on this button, I could say I'm gonna just put the Sarah script on the button. So when I click the button, I'm going to access my button. and I'm going to call Sarah's function. So now if I hit play and I go to my console, then every time I hit this button, see it printed your name down here.
Oh.
So the button is calling that function, and the function, all the function does right now is say your name.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
So, but otherwise, if I didn't hit that button, then there's nothing there to call that function. So those, like the start thing, that's basically like doing this, except it happens at the beginning of, like right when you hit play. Right when you hit the play button, the start function happens. And every single frame, like if we changed that to, this is going to be crazy, but watch this. If I do void update, we might crash Unity right here. Might crash my computer. Because this is going to happen on every single frame. So I'm going to hit save. So I'm going to clear this. I'm just going to hit play and watch my console. It's just going to go by itself like 1,000 times. Boom, 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 boom. See that? So every single frame, it's calling that function. That's all it's doing is printing your name. So just in like 3 seconds, how many lines did I print?
Holy cow.
I don't know how many this is, but that was all the different. It did that like 200 times, you know. So you don't want it to be like printing information in the update function, because it'll happen just 1,000 times, and just keep going. It'll just keep on going until your computer crashes, you know. So.
Okay, good to know. Well, I have another class at 8, so I probably need to go. But thank you. That was easier to understand, I think it would be.
You're welcome. So next time I'm probably going to have to catch everybody else up on these things that I just talked to you about, but at least you know what we're doing now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.